The UK police have dismissed misleading media reports of attack on poppy sellers. We're going to read into this more from The Guardian, guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here with an article from The Guardian with the headline that UK police have dismissed misleading media reports of attack on poppy sellers. The Royal British Legion says public support appeal was usual with no evidence volunteers were targeted. So obviously I need to bring up the article that I done, I believe it was a couple of days ago or last week, to you guys, because obviously you guys want some answers, because obviously I covered a story on this, and that was poppy sellers missing from major station after pro-Palestinian protest chaos. An apparent fall in poppy appeal volunteers comes after British Transport Police said it was investigating claims of an assault. So I covered this, and obviously I believe that the newspaper published this with good intentions, that they believe that there was a case there, that there was apparent fall in poppy appeal volunteers. And if we recall, they stated that a number of main railway stations have been targeted in recent days by demonstrators drawing the attention to the plight of Palestinians in the ongoing Israeli military operation, with sitting protests in Glasgow, Edinburgh and Eye, which may have drawn away people's ire from what they thought was to be from it. Now it comes now I don't know 100% for certainty, but what I do know is that the assault that we talked about in that video was not an assault. The case was dropped, and I highlighted that in the pinned comment, and I made it very clear in that video that if pro-Palestinians were kind of overinflating, obviously, on the Royal British Appeal, I feel it was wrong. I still feel, and I'm making this clear now, that this picture here, just doesn't sit right with me, and that they shouldn't be jumping all over them, because that's what it comes across to me as. Now, I'm not saying that they shouldn't have a right to protest. They should have a right to a peaceful protest, but I just didn't want it clashing with the Royal British Appeal, and that's what I've said. I've taken the decision to remove the video from the exclusive for my news based on the light of the new evidence that has come to light, and I just think that it's, and I made a point as well about how we must be careful not to play into the right-wing media's hands, and that's exactly what happened when the man who was allegedly assaulted, he was not assaulted at all. He was not assaulted at all. There was nothing there to report on. based on what the police have said and what I've looked at, there was no assault. There's no photos, there's no video footage, there's nothing like assault. There's been none of that from the peaceful Palestinian protesters. However, it doesn't change the fact that this picture makes me extremely uncomfortable seeing them all over the Royal British Appeal. And you can, and like I said, you can see it from the faces here that they're not comfortable about it. Now, some other Royal British Legion volunteers are more than happy probably to have them around it, but I just felt like that they were overshadowing what is of something of very importance. Now, they are marching for peace, but I still stand by my position is that it doesn't sit right with me. And they shouldn't be on top of the Royal British Legion. That's my opinion. You can vehemently disagree with me in the comments, and I will welcome your challenge on that. It just doesn't sit right with me. It just doesn't. But The Guardian is one of the more reliable news outlets. They'll always get it right. But police have dismissed these misleading media reports, which I think is really, really important. I should just add, just before we go any further, I've had to record this. This is the 5th time that I've had to record this because I've been disturbed 4 times already. So let's hope I can actually get through this one. On the concourse of Waterloo Station in London on Friday morning, poppy seller Dave Ponnier, 45, was relishing the bumper demand He had set up the stall at 6:30 a.m. where commuters were queuing to donate and support the fundraising campaign. Potney, a train driver, has volunteered each November for nearly 30 years and takes on holidays to support a cause. He's so dedicated to the role that he regularly works a shift lasting 12 hours. He said that he volunteers for the military excuse me, who have made the sacrifices and decisions that luckily we don't have to, he said. I think of the world of those people. I'm just going to show you this, guys. I'm not going to zoom in on it. This is a front page of the Daily Mail on the 7th of November. And it says there, Poppy seller 78 punched by protesters. Veteran tells the Mail of a station attack as leaders of Gaza march on Amnesty's Day refuse police plea to cancel. How much riled up does a headline like that needs to be, guys? He was not punched, so that's already lying to the people. And it's a peaceful march, not a hate march. So that in itself as well needs to be pointed out. Poynter, who lives in southwest London, is one of about 40,000 volunteers who works for the Royal British Legion in England, Wales and Northern Ireland, raising millions of pounds. The Scottish Poppy Appeal is operated separately by Poppyscotland, a member of the Royal British Legion group of charities. There is a surge of goodwill from commuters and other travellers towards volunteers like Poynter, but last week a spat of reports claimed that some sellers have been intimidated, verbally abused and even punched. Like many sellers, Poynter seemed bemused by the unfounded reports and said there is huge public support for the Poppy Appeal. The Royal British Legion said the reports have been unhelpful. Last Saturday, Johnny Mercer, the Minister for Veterans Affairs, said protesters at London Charing Cross Station had appeared to try to intimidate poppy sellers. The Daily Mail reported on Tuesday that a poppy seller in Edinburgh railway station has claimed that he was kicked and punched after getting caught up in a pro-Palestine protest. Poppy sellers, described as brilliant and stoic bunch by the Royal British Legion, were said to be largely unprepared, but there were a ripple of panic in some national newsrooms, and by Thursday the Sun led with the front page with the article headline, "Where have all the poppies gone?" The Sun said busy London stations have been left without poppy sellers over fears of pro-Palestinian protests, and there were concerns coffeeers will be hit. The Mail Online published a similar report on Thursday, claiming some sellers were terrified to go out or were forced to wear body cams for protection. The volunteers it claims were forced to wear body cameras were not pictured in the report. So it's misleading rhetoric right there from the newspapers. GB News, the right-wing news channel, reported that rail stations had seen poppy sellers vanish. It claimed that they had disappeared after volunteers were punched and pushed at train station hubs in a series of incidents. It provided no evidence of these incidences. This is the headline there from the Sun. The PM slams protest abuse. Where have all the poppies gone? No sellers at station amid fears of attack. There's no attack whatsoever, guys. The other thing I just want to point out off topic as well is that Carol Valdemar is binned by the BBC. She was not binned. She was forced out by the changes that they put in. Very misleading stuff from the Sun and the Mail there. Very, very dangerous wordings. And just, you don't even need to open it up and read it. Just by looking at that, walking past, because that's what some people do, right? They literally just walking past convenience store or whatnot, and then they see that, and already it starts making them think, they don't need to read the article, they don't need to buy the paper, they only need to see that front paper for them to start thinking, oh, these marches are going to cause nothing but trouble. They're going to play into the mindset. This riles up the far right, people like the English Defence League, and gets them in that stupid mindset that they think that these peaceful pro-Palestinian marches are going to cause trouble. And that's not their intention. There will always be a small amount of people causing trouble in some protests one way or another. But the vast majority are marching peacefully. And it's dangerous, dangerous stuff. And this is all caused by one person, and that's the Home Secretary. Hopefully, soon to be ex-Home Secretary. The Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, even intervened. He told the Sun, "I'm appalled that some poppy sellers, many veterans, who are at the heart of our collective remembrance each year, have experienced intimidation, abuses, and then volunteering at train stations." There's no evidence to support any of this, by the way. The British Transport Police criticised misleading information in the media, saying there was no evidence of poppy sellers being targeted. The Royal British Legion said there is no shortage of poppy sellers, with numbers up on last year and poppy sales at all mainline stations. It said there had been no increase in reports about sellers being intimidated, abused or punched, and no volunteers have been asked by a charity to wear a body camera for their protection. Andy Taylor-White, interim director of the Poppy Appeal, said supporters received a warm response from the public, with no significant concerns about abuse or intimidation. He said pro-Palestine protesters had been at Charing Cross last Saturday, which the only incident was aware of, he said. Which was the only incident he was aware of, he said. He said it was a friendly sit-down. There was no intimidation. The volunteers didn't feel threatened at all, and they continued to collect the following day. The alleged assault of a poppy seller in Edinburgh was investigated by the British Transport Police. Extensive inquiries found no evidence of an assault. Very important there. No evidence has been found. And remember as well, there are CCTV footage at train stations as well. So if there was an actual assault, there'd be footage to verify that as well. Because there's CCTV cameras at stations. So there's footage there to verify when people are claiming of an assault. It was reported a child may have caused minor injuries to a poppy seller's foot. So what? The child stepped on the man's foot and he claimed that it was pro-Palestinians. Palestinians had done that. British Transport Police say, "We are aware that misleading information has been circulating in the mainstream media, which has understandably led to those who sell poppies being fearful of their safety at train stations. We want to reiterate that we have no reason to believe that those who sell poppies are at any risk of being intentionally targeted. The seller who was quoted in the press wearing body cameras were in fact Network Rail staff who were helping the Poppy Appeal. They wear body cameras because of their jobs on the railway station. The Royal British Legion said none of its staff were required to wear body cameras. It would not issue such an instruction, and there were no concerns reports from volunteers who had been abused or were fearful of the intimidation compared with any previous year." Taylor-White said, "We of course look after them and have been reassuring them." He said that there was no issue of location being covered and that they were covered last year, including mainline train stations in London. Taylor-White added, "We've got collections at every mainline London station. We would love to be in more locations across the country, so we are always looking for more volunteers." When asked about the reports that some mainline stations did not have volunteers on site at all times, he said volunteers took breaks and have flexible hours, but there was no shortfall compared with previous years. He said the appeal was aiming for £50 million this year, and he was delighted with public support. There had been a small increase in volunteer organisations and poppy sellers compared with last year, he said. "We have more volunteers out this year, and we are grateful that there has been huge public support, even with the cost of living crisis. We're also grateful to our thousands of volunteers who get out there and help us do these collections." The Royal British Legion website has information for people wishing to volunteer. Commuters buying poppies at Waterloo on Friday were appreciative of the work done by Poynter and thousands of others like him. Luke Ryan's 35 from Walton-on-Thames, who works in transport technology, said, "I think it's fantastic. We need people like him to do their bit." All a load of hogwash, riled up, all by right-wing and misleading information out there, has led to people believing that there is some kind of issue when there is none, creating intimidation and fear when there is not necessary, inciting hatred and violence when there is none again. Reform in media is needed badly. People will look at this march on Amnesty Day and think that they are going to cause trouble when they are not intentionally to cause any trouble whatsoever, guys. I'm still not feeling well, in case anyone's wondering. It has to stop. We have to reform the media in this country. We cannot have misleading information out there from the likes of GB News, the Daily Mail, and the Sun, giving unridiculously amounts of information and scaring and scaremongering on what is people doing who are volunteering their time to raise money for a cause, for the Royal British Legion. And I sympathise with them. And once again, I want to apologise for the article that I published because I obviously did not do enough information on it, and I should have known better. So I do apologise for putting up that exclusive from because while it was very clear in the article that it was only an alleged attack, at the time I was very much concerned about the rift that it was going to make. And now you look at things now, and you can see the rift has taken place. Well, the rift hasn't taken place, but they've successfully. Let me rephrase that. So the rift hasn't taken place, but what they've done is that those who read those papers and watch that kind of news, they will be more incited to cause harm because they believe that these Palestinian protesters are coming to cause harm, which is not the case at all. But the point is that the damage has been done by the right wing. They've poisoned the mind of people, and we need to stop them poisoning the mind of right people right in their tracks. And I'm glad that the Guardian has put out this article, kind of putting a stomp down and saying this is what the police are saying, this is what the Royal British Legion are saying. And then there's no actual reports of incidences whatsoever. So I will say hats off to them for doing that, because it was very much needed. But I'm sure there may be more information to come. So what do you guys think of all of this mess? The mess that I made, the mess that the right-wing media have made, the over-the-top stories. Let me know what you guys honestly think down in the comment section below, because this has been a long one, guys. Like, share and subscribe as always. Thank you very much for watching if you have watched it all. And I hope to catch you all very, very soon.